All right, people, we're back on the Steel Target Paint podcast. We've got a very special guest today. We've got JJ Racaza. JJ, how you doing?
Hey, man, good. Doing really well. It's good to have that. That means good to be here and talking with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Steve, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Jeff? Hey, JJ, how's it going?
Good. Not bad at all, sir. Thanks for having me again. Like I said, I can't wait to start chatting it up, I guess, with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you being on, so let's get right into it. So, JJ, I'm not going to say you're older. You're definitely younger than I am, but you've been around the scene for a long time. When did you actually start shooting?
I started shooting between 1988. 1987 is when I picked up a pistol for the first time, but 1988.
88. And what were you shooting back then?
1911 Colt Commander, 45.
Ah, single stack.
Yes, sir. It's the only gun, I think, at that time. I don't know. At least the only gun I was ever exposed to besides a revolver.
Yeah, it's well, I think if I'm not mistaken, the USPSA was born out of single stack. It was, one of the first divisions out there.
Yeah.
So what made you want to start shooting? What was it that said, "Wow, I want to do that"?
It was a situation that we had in the Philippines. Actually, my dad was always on call. He was out for surgery, and something had happened, and basically my sisters and I had locked ourselves in a room, just hoping that nothing would happen to us, and the helpers were able to fend off whatever was going on. And my dad comes home with the house a little bit in shambles. A couple of the helpers were cut, and he walked right up to us and was like, "Hey, what'd you guys do?" I was like, "Oh, we hid here." And so my dad pulled the drawer open. He's like, "Nope." He goes, "Next time that happens," he goes, "grab this," and just pointing at the door. And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Anyone else that comes in, but us and our family," he goes, "you pull the trigger." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, today we're going to learn how to do this and shoot, and you're going to shoot your first gun ever today." And that was the first time I ever seen one. And I think within next couple of hours, we went out to the range and shot a few rounds and thought it was hella scary because the gun 45 at 8 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, it bounced all over the place, trying to hold on for dear life. And but it was awesome to hear that steel ring. And while we were at the range, my dad, I guess, was there, looked over the other side. He's like, "Oh, what are they doing? Look like they're clearing houses. That looks pretty fun." So he started talking to those guys, and he got invited to go shoot with them. And he started competing, and that's how it was. He started bringing trophies home, started seeing him training, dry firing. And I'm like, "Hey, I'd like to do a little bit of that. I want to spend more time with my dad." And that's kind of how it started.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. We talked with Max, and he said the same thing. He started shooting with his dad, and we actually learned something interesting. There's actually been a match where there were 3 generations of Michelles shooting the match.
Yeah.
So, is your dad still shooting?
He's coming. He's gonna try to come back and play a little bit. He does a lot of. He keeps saying, he's like, "I only shoot the cameras now." And it's pointed at me. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So he's pretty content with doing that. But I'm wanting him to be a little more active, and I'm thinking since this new division that opened up, PCC, seems to be very less. I guess less. There's very little requirement. You just got to pick up a rifle or a PCC and magazines, and you barely have to reload. You just got to aim and pull the trigger. And so I told him about that, and that kind of piqued his interest.
Well, I shoot PCC, and the term we use is it's much more forgiving. Having a 16-inch barrel and a dot and 3 points of contact on the gun.
Yes.
You still gotta, if you're going to be competitive, you got to get out there. You got to be fast, and you still got to hit stuff. But it is definitely more forgiving when you leave a match and people are going, well, they're not worried about mics anymore. They're going, "Oh my God, I had 2 deltas, and that's a horror."
Yeah. That's so true.
Jeff, I shoot PCC because I like to hit stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, everybody, put the kids aside. I'm going to quote Shannon Smith here on his podcast. He said the reason why PCC is so much fun is you get to hit. And it's very true.
So, JJ, we like to offer our listeners a shooting tip, and I know you do a lot of instruction across the country. Do you have a shooting tip you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, really it's just get to know the basic trigger manipulation. Once you figure out how to prep the trigger, that seems to be the biggest issue for a lot of people. Trigger manipulation. Most people know how to aim and hold their sights on target, but trigger manipulation is where it's very inconsistent. In 95% of my classes, I go over that a little bit, or actually a lot bit for the first hour or two, and show them the differences in how to pull it and all that stuff. And people are always blown away. Like they're like, how does this little thing make such a huge difference in my shooting? And then, you can take a guy that's never shot before, or, experienced shooter or a beginner shooter, and you can tell them, like, all right, give me your best group. And you go, all right. And then you show them the correct way to prep the trigger and pull the trigger. And then you show them a little bit of that. Within 5-10 minutes, their group has significantly increased and become much better. So I always feel like once you learn how to prep the trigger, you can really manipulate any gun you can out there. You just got to understand the movement of it. And then once you do that, it's very, I think the shooting becomes very pleasurable and easier because things, as long as you take away the speed aspect of it, I guess there's other factors, but it boils down to really just trigger. You start hitting everything you're looking at. It ties into your transition and timing from leaving a target. People are always wondering, like, how am I missing my second shot because I'm leaving too soon? I'm like, no, your timing was just completely off. Your finger was off the trigger as opposed to it being prepped. And when you pulled off the trigger, or thought the gun was supposed to go off, the gun didn't actually go off. It went off 0.1 second later, and you were already pulling off the trigger, pulling off the target, which caused you to miss or delta hit, whatever. Shooting on the move, it ties into that also. So it ties into a lot of things, and people always wonder, like, how can you shoot in the move and hit accurate shots or a fairly decent amount of points and be confident with it? I'm like, well, it's because I prep the trigger. And they're like, what? You prep it even when I'm like, yeah, it's the most basic fundamental form of shooting, and people are neglecting it, but everyone wants to do the Hondo roll and everyone wants to run and gun and all that stuff. And I'm just like, So yeah, if there's one tip, I tell them to master their trigger. And once you do that, because that was the biggest change in my shooting. That was that right single there. I truly believe that once I learned how to pull the trigger correctly, it elevated my game significantly. I just didn't have the chance to be able to prove it because I didn't have the time essentially to keep shooting the way I wanted to shoot and then spend time on the range and all that stuff.
So along those lines, JJ, do you spend, if the average listener out there is on some sort of budget because the sport that we choose to shoot is expensive, do you recommend a lot of dry fire compared to live fire, or what's your recommendation to get the better familiarity with prepping the trigger? And, because it's an explosion going off in your hands and people flinch and all those types of things. Do you spend more time dry firing or out on the range?
Yeah, for sure. I started out in the Philippines, right? And I was
Yep.
my first gun was a single stack, right? And then and my first open gun actually was just a single stack, 45 with compensator, still iron sights. That was my first open gun ever. And then then they threw the red dot, the dot came about, and Casco, Pro Point, all that stuff. That's how long I guess I've been in this game. It's kind of funny, but before open division existed, but it was expensive in the Philippines. Third world country, we didn't have, my dad had a good profession, but didn't make a lot of money. So what I spent a lot of my time in was dry firing. I just made myself as fast as I could draw, as fast as I could possibly reload, and I wanted to be the fastest in the range if that was possible. And if I couldn't shoot as good as the next guy, I knew I could move and point my gun and drew and reload if not as fast as him, definitely faster than him. You know what I mean? So that was one of the things that I kind of came to. And once I did that, I dry fired 7 days a week. When I was a kid, I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have a life. So it was an hour a day, push my movement as much as I could, and just learn a lot. And it would translate really well in the range where I didn't have to think about my manipulation. All I had to do was learn how to line up my sights and pull the trigger eventually. And even though I didn't really know how to pull a trigger then, I just knew how to aim. And I would hit majority of the stuff that I'm shooting, but I was pretty fast because of all the dry fire that I did. Right? So that's, until today, I still dry fire over 300 days a year. Not as long anymore, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day. But I do dry fire with the intent of becoming even faster than I was yesterday or last week. So I still do it, and I sincerely believe in it, and I think it's free. When I guess 2015, 2016, I didn't really get to shoot much. I shot like 1 or 2 matches, only because I was starting a business, and my wife wasn't here, and I had both the kids, all that stuff. So I just dry fired my butt off, and I would literally go to the range maybe once every 3 months just to kind of, that was the only time I had to squeeze in. And it didn't feel as foreign, the gun. What felt foreign was the timing and my speed. I couldn't go fast because things were not in sync with me and the gun and all that stuff. But in terms of pointing the gun, drawing the gun, reload, I felt like it was all there. So I was like, oh, you know what? I just got to wait and shoot my dot. I remember saying that to myself. I'm like, I just got to wait for my dot. I'll be a lot slower than everyone else, but at least I'll hit everything. The gun didn't feel foreign. So as rusty as I wasn't as rusty as I could have been, I guess, if I didn't dry fire. So I tell people, man, dry fire, go play with the gun, learn your gun. If you dry fire correctly, you're going to figure out how to manipulate, how to prep that trigger consecutively, even with a dead trigger already, even when the hammer's already fallen and all that stuff.
Great, really cool insight. Thanks for sharing that with us.
JJ, you shot IPSC, USPSA, Steel Challenge, a lot of divisions in that. What's your favorite one right now?
I can't tell you a favorite, but I can tell you something I love about each and every single one of them.
Share that with us.
That makes
That's
sense?
awesome. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I love IPSC because of the fact that it's the shooting is so much more challenging, where it relies a lot more about the technicality and positioning and timing of swingers, and the shooting is so much harder. The last match I just went to, average target was about 18 yards, and they had 1/3 of a target that would show up behind a steel target, swinging as fast as it could possibly can at 20 yards, 20 meters, whatever, 17 meters they called it, 18 meters. And the average hit factor is at 6 to 7. So you got to play that balance of whether you're going to go throttle up and drop a lot of points, or throttle back down and just grab a lot of points, right? So it was kind of one of those things. And if you find that sweet balance, that 7-6 hit factor range, you can win a lot of matches or gain a lot of ground by just playing the right speed and velocity that you're shooting at. So that's one of the things I love about IPSC. And besides the travel, even though that's also one of my least favorite about traveling international, is with the gun, is just not cool. But USPSA, the next thing I like about the US, moving on to USPSA, one of the things I love about USPSA is the freedom in movement. In IPSC, we're restricted in boxes and stages and lines and fault lines and all that stuff, where you can't cut corners, you can't run around barricades. You have to stay within the fault lines. And IPSC, USPSA, you can do whatever the heck you wish, as long as you're within the rules and all that stuff. You know, you can't slide under barricades anymore, apparently, but you can run around them if you want to. If you didn't want to run back through the area you just came from, you can run around the entire thing and run through targets if you wanted to, if you felt that was going to be shorter or quicker. So I love that, the freedom of being able to do whatever. It's all about the creative mind. And in terms of being able to shoot on the move, you can do it a lot more with USPSA as opposed to IPSC. So that's one of the things I love about USPSA. IPSC Steel Challenge, one of my favorites about it is that that's where you exploit your speed, and that's just literally all about timing, a little bit of memory. Obviously, since you're shooting the same stages over and over, and you have to shoot a lot of rounds on it to really get good at it. And then it's not only about speed, but it's also about hitting things as accurately and as consistently as you can, because as fast as you're going, if you're missing everything, you're going to either have to come back and pick it up or just eat a mic, and so you got to actually have to hit it. So it's not all about balls out speed. And so, you know, but the crazy thing about that is that you're literally standing still in one position, and everyone's going, best 4 out of 5 times. And the pressure incrementally increases as each string comes around, especially if you had a good string or a bad string in the first one. You have to make sure the next 2 to 3, 4 are good, so you can either have a throwaway or not have a throwaway at the end of your last round. Like, you have to make the last round count. You have to shoot consistently, basically, and you have to make it count. And sometimes if you shoot all 4 good runs, you can say, you know what, let me go see if I can become a hero on this last string and see if I can actually let loose a little bit and increase my timing and shooting and speed and all that stuff. So it's a cool. They have little cool niches and amongst all of them. There's a lot of things that I don't like about each of them. Not a lot. There's certain things I don't like about each of them either, but the majority of them I love that, and I shoot all of them. I just haven't shot Steel Challenge in a while because of the time that I've had with family and all that stuff. I've had to dedicate myself to just IPSC and USPSA, but those are the 3 things that I shoot the most because of at least previous years, is because I like the setup, and there's little things about each one of them that I truly enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
JJ, I've watched a couple interviews with you. I've seen some YouTube videos of your instruction. I want to kind of break it down just a little bit and ask you a question that probably you've never been asked before in an interview. So is there one question that you wish somebody would ask you in an interview that you haven't been asked? What would that be?
I think you guys actually asked it. I think I think you guys asked it at the right time. I just never really answered it the way I answered it on this show. And that question really was one tip. And I used to give them like a drill. I used to give maybe a technique or a programming, or do a challenge or something like that. And this time around, it was kind of eye-opener for me, because I was like, yeah, I was like, you know what, one specific thing, it's trigger. And a lot of people don't ask, like, hey, what's one thing that made you improve the most, or saw the huge improvement? What made you this, or what would you share? Whatever. And I used to never answer trigger, and this time around I answered trigger, and that's the question that I would really love the most, because ever since I've been teaching that, and really that's not that's like the first 2 hours, but it's like, well, ever since I've been teaching that, everyone's been blown away, from new guys to GMs. It's been awesome to see how every single one of them can see the application on trigger, basically.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that with us.
So, JJ, let's dig a little back into IPSC. How many World Shoot teams or World Shoots have you actually gone to so far?
Hey, 1, 2, 3. I listed them out a little bit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've been to 6 of them since 1999, and I've been through 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. One of them was in the Philippine team. Was the 99 was the first one. That was actually the first time I started shooting anyway, here in the U.S. at least.
Now, have they all been in open?
No. You know what? No, they have not. 2014, I went back to production to chase Eric Raffel in the production division.
Well, I noticed, I looked up the records this past year in open. You were second overall. Has that been one of your best places?
No. So it's I guess you can say it's one of the best, but I've been second in the World Shoot in 2 different divisions since 2011.
Okay.
How about that, huh?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty awesome. But I think it's actually, my dad and I would joke around. We look at each other. We're like, you know what? Second place overall from open in 2011, production in 2014, and then second again in open in 2017 is harder than winning 11, 14, and 17 altogether. Because being second place, I literally have to pay attention to what the first place guy's doing and what the third place guy's doing.
Yep.
Being first, you just have to worry about what the second guy's doing. So he's only worrying about one person.
You know, we talked about that when JJ signed on before recording. I said, you know, you're either chasing somebody, you're being chased, and there's an indication of it happens in a match as well, not just in your general shooting. So
yeah.
Well, now in USPSA, you're a GM in open, production, and limited. And all the nationals are going to be down here in Frostproof this year. How many of them are you going to shoot?
All 3.
You're going to shoot all 3. Okay.
The first time I'm shooting limited in, I don't know, since 2003, 2? Yeah, it's been a long time since I shot limited. I don't even have a limited gun. Let's put it that way. I have a slot for limited, but I don't have a limited gun. I don't have any 40 caliber ammo. I don't have, my die is not set up for 40 loads. It's so I don't know.
Well, you know what,
I'll sign
JJ?
up for it, though.
I live here in Florida, and in a pinch, I've got an STI Edge, I've got a ammo can full of 40 ammo, and I'm not shooting the match. But if my gun were to happen to make the match, that would be amazing. So
That would be
I'll offer that to
awesome.
you right now.
Really? So all right. So I'm definitely gonna keep your number because I don't think I'm gonna have a gun by then. So I might actually take that off.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I live 2 hours from Frostproof. I could be there and in no time and drop the gun off and let you shoot it. And like I said, I've got I've got 2 ammo cans full of ammo. So you are welcome to it.
That's awesome. That's a hell of an offer.
Hey, JJ, just so you know, Jeff has never made that kind of offer to me. Thanks, Jeff.
I felt like it's a little generous, but thanks.
Well, it's funny. Steve and I have talked about it with a number of different people about how in this sport, this is what we do. I mean, you could be at a match. I've seen Steve do it. I've done it. I've been on the receiving end. Gun goes down, and people are right there going, hey, shoot my gun. You need ammo? Here's my ammo.
Yeah.
It's just what we are. Yeah. It's about competing against the people, not just winning. And it's a pretty cool feeling. So
you said it right there, right? It's competing. That's the reason why I left Open Division 2011, because I was so close to beating Eric. There's a couple of things that happened in that world shoot that allowed him to make up 80 points or something like that going to the last day. Within like a snap of a finger, he was able to make up like 60, 80 points, something ridiculous like that. So I was literally in a comfortable lead going to the last day, and I felt like it was mine already, except a couple of things, right? And then once he got that back, I was in a different mindset. I was angry, and ended up losing by 20 points or something like that. And it was like one of the closest matches he's ever won in terms of Open. So when he told me, when him and my father and his father were sitting in the tent, and he's like, hey, good job. He goes, 2014 should be yours. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I think I figured out the shooting game now. I figured out how to shoot and run the gun a little better. I have a steadier schedule and all that stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah. I was like, I should be able to beat you, I hope. And he's like, well, not in Open. I'm like, what do you mean not in Open? I was like, no, I'll beat you in Open. And he's like, no, not in the next World Shoot. I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And we're going back and forth. And he's like, no, because I'm shooting production. And as soon as he said that, I'm like, well, screw it. I'll shoot production. And my dad looks at me and he goes, have you ever shot a production gun in your life? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I've never shot production. But if Eric's going to production, what's the point of me staying in Open? And only to win, if I do win Open 2014, everyone's just going to say you won it because Eric wasn't there. So to me, I was like, F that. No way. It's all about competing to me, not about the empty title. So I chased him in 2014, and, I don't think that was such a smart idea because I got second.
Well, that your comments there kind of lead to my next question, and I've had a number of friends that have run you as ROs on the stage. And, they say when it's your time to shoot, you're all business. But other than that, you're kind of a joker around the range, willing to have a lot of fun and shake hands and kiss babies, as they would say with politicians. Now, can you confirm or deny this, Room?
No, I cannot deny that at all. That is totally true. Even my dad, if you should see my dad sometimes try to wrangle me. He's like, he'll let me go. And then sometimes he'll have to pull me in. He's like, listen, he goes, you're on deck. He goes, you need to freaking focus. Because he goes, you're sitting here laughing your ass off. He goes, you're about to perform right now on the stage. That's pretty hard. And he goes, you need to freaking come back into your zone. Because sometimes I just lose my mind. I just like to have fun. Like when I'm out there in the range, it's like being with my family. I feel like I'm just so alive. Like I feel so comfortable. I've been around the game for so long. There's so much going on. Everything else elsewhere, whatever job, whatever it may be. When I'm in the range, I feel so just free. And all I know is I just gotta, especially lately, as of late, it's just been such an awesome experience. Just seeing the ROs, and now I'm learning to enjoy the moment as I'm going through it. Before, as I was all business, it was all about the win and competing against the guy and trying to see how many points is up, I do that still, but I'm more in the moment now, especially the last World Shoot. I made sure I took advantage of every moment that I experienced from the opening ceremony all the way through the closing ceremony. It didn't matter how much stress I was in terms of shooting and performance with sponsors' expectations and all that stuff. It didn't matter. I let that go, and I said, you know what, it's going to be where it is. The match was already won a couple of weeks ago or a month ago through practice and stuff like that. I was like, here we are now. We're just going to give our best, and whoever comes out the best is going to be the winner. And I let that be, and I had an absolute blast. And ever since then, it's kind of one of those things that even though I've always had fun in matches, it seems like I've amplified my fun in matches now. I laugh constantly, sometimes a little too much, where like the RO would literally look at me going, dude, you're throwing jokes and laughing out loud while there's this one guy shitting his, I'm sorry for saying that, but peeing his pants, nervous as hell, on the line, ready to shoot, and you're sitting there dying of laughter, crying. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I said, I lose my mind. And so I do pranks a lot. I do a lot of pranks. I call people out a lot. Like, I like to tape, right? So that's just one of my things. It keeps me distracted. It keeps me moving. And if any of the guys in the squad not tape, I'll start yelling out full names before the shooter's even done shooting. I start calling them out, and the RO's like, "Man, thank you so much for doing that."
Well, that's awesome. At the World Speed Shoot, I was one of the range officers, and to be honest, the best painting squad was the super squad. And I think it's because they've done it so long, and they just know that that's how you keep things moving along.
Yeah.
And
I'd always like that. Granted, there's certain super squad guys that kind of either forget, they get in their own head, they're just in the zone. It's not intentional. Some are maybe, very small percentage are intentional. They just don't want to help, whatever the reason is. But it's not always like that. People get loose and they take themselves too seriously. But yeah, like still challenge, sometimes just automatic. Like, this guy's done, I'm not on deck, I'm not in the hole, let me go tape or paint.
Yeah, well, here's a funny story from this past one. I was working Pendulum. Super Squad came through. I forget who was shooting. It doesn't matter. Shane Coley grabbed a can of paint, ran down, and ripped a nice black strip right across the plate. Grabbed the wrong can of paint. So, of course, we let him remember. We reminded him of that multiple times through the rest of the squad shootings.
Hey, Jeff, I'm going to tell him you said that, too.
That's fine. That's fine.
But to that point, though,
JJ,
the best match to date that I've ever shot in PCC and Steel Challenges, I was squatted with a bunch of friends from across the country. We were cutting up, having a good time. Even a good time from the fire line. Hey, did you see that one? And
yes.
It just kind of keeps you loose, and it's just, that's why I shoot is I'm out there to relieve a little bit of stress, to compete at hopefully a high level, and just really just have fun, and that's what makes the sport. So I'm glad to hear your comments around that. That's pretty cool.
I do. I don't know. I think I think there's a couple of us that really rub off of each other and feed off of each other. Being one of them, Casey and I, once we're together, and like Casey, Max, and I, specifically Casey and I, we just lose our head. There's just jokes galore. And it's Shane. We've grown up with each other since we were kids, so it's kind of one of those where that's the only time we really get to see each other. So we take all the stories that we had previous year, dirt and no dirt, whatever, clean. We bring it all out in the match, and we start ripping on each other. Oh, the stories you'll hear between us, and it's just the laughter that you'll hear also. I mean, it's just sometimes too much. My dad will tell you. He's like, no, you've got to stop.
Well, JJ, I shoot a lot of Steel Challenge, and I guess it's been a couple of years. I think, when was your last World Speed Shoot? 2013 or so?
I don't know. Yeah, 13 or 12. Somewhere around there. I think it was the last. I think 13 I shot. I think all I shot was actually. Oh no, I actually shot my open gun also. I think it was. I was mainly a production shooter by then. That's right, because it was after 2011 World Shoot, and I was trying to shoot a Caracal or something like that.
You think you're gonna make a cameo? Max is what do you shoot a 74 here back in June, and there's some BJ throwdown what an 80 or so with
an 80 with an iron sights or something like that, didn't he?
Yep.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was there. I was out in
I
California.
pay attention to the times.
Yeah.
This past year, KC threw a 60.95 in rimfire pistol.
I saw that. I saw that, and I looked at it, and I think I sent him a text. I'm like, what the hell happened? He's like, I closed my eyes and I shot. But no, I think there will be a time where I will shoot again. I've been biting at the bit to come back and shoot Still Challenge. It's just a lot of time devoted into just because it's hard to show up to Still Challenge and only really practicing the day, that week of. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I spend a month ahead of time and just clear up my table, and all I would shoot is Still Challenge, and it would be 2 to 3 times a week. I would do this once a week because I was in Jersey, and then I would fly to Reno 2 weeks in advance, and I would literally shoot about 3 to 4 times a week, and we would shoot Still Challenge stages. And so by the time you got to the practice day, Monday over there at Pyru, we would shoot practice, morning, afternoon practice, and then you would do the same thing over and over until Friday, the match day. And that's what you did, and you felt ready, and everything was on point. And if you changed your rhythm whatsoever, try to be slower, try to aim a little more during match day, it wouldn't reflect because that's not how you practice. You practice freaking throttle down, and you're just working on your timing and rhythm. And so it's hard to show up kind of half-assed, like, oh, I'm just here to have fun. No, F that. When I'm going to Still Challenge, as much fun as I'm having, I'm going to try to go there, try to see if I can keep up with some of these guys now laying down times like it was our top open times a long time ago.
Yeah, the times have definitely...
With iron sights, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the times have definitely, they're going lower and lower. I really started about 2.5 years ago, and I started off shooting rimfire rifle, and there was a couple of us talking. I shot a sub 70, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then, this past year at USCL Nationals, I think there was like 7 people shooting sub 70. It's like, that's why I started shooting PCC. Hey, I shot a sub 70, but anybody here yet? And then, of course, Casey decides to shoot PCC. But anyway.
Yeah.
I do have a question that I get a lot of the time being associated with the Steel Target Paint shooting team. We sponsor families and kids across the country, and I get asked about sponsorship all the time. Could you share your insight on what somebody should or could do to become a sponsored shooter and how you treat it?
I'm probably the worst person to ask. Here's how to answer that question. The way I got, because I was never really a fully sponsored shooter.
Sure.
Until about 2011. Right after 2011, I didn't know where to go, how to get production guns. So I was like, hey, what do I do? And guys were like, you got to show up to SHOT Show. I asked Jared Miklick, I'm like, what do I do? SHOT Show. I'm like, I don't even know what SHOT Show is. And then I've been shooting, at that time, I've been shooting for about 18, 19 years of my freaking life. I've been in the game for that long. And they're like, no, you do SHOT Show. And I'm like, what's SHOT Show? And they said, okay. So I looked it up and found it, and it's in Vegas. All right, so I'm going to fly over there. And I don't know what to do. I started looking around and got invited to a couple of shows and stuff like that and booths. And so I talked to a couple guys, and I said, hey, what do I do? And from there, that's when I started realizing that place is where you sell yourself. Basically, you sell your soul. You tell everybody what you can do, what you can't do, what you've done, and show them some highlight reels. And goodness gracious, there's a lot. Well, don't misquote this, but there's a lot of money out there that they're willing to give. And whether it's just merchandise, they're more welcome to give out merchandise, but the money's a little hard for them to give out. But there is money out there, depending on who you are, depending on who backs you. A lot of it's who you know, and sometimes you walk in the booth not knowing anyone. It just so happens that one person in there happens to have heard of you or seen a video on YouTube. And nowadays with social media, it makes it a lot easier and the world's a lot smaller, so people kind of know you. And it's kind of one of those like, hey, that guy did this, and then that company will hear it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, bring him in. Let's talk to him. And then that's basically how you get sponsored. I mean, that's how I did it. But it took me, 19 years to do that. So I wouldn't advise that. I wouldn't advise that over anyone.
No, I think to that point, though, is certainly very helpful because a lot of people don't understand that it takes a lot of time and effort, to build your level of credibility. And it's not just, hey, give me free stuff. It's what can you do for a company, because it's marketing dollars, and what are you going to do for them in return? No, I think it's great for people to hear that, hey, even somebody such as yourself, you're an extremely accomplished shooter, and one of the best in the sport, and it took you that long to kind of get into the sponsorship thing, because we live in a little bit different society where people may be a little bit more entitled than how I grew up, but I think it's good for people to hear, so I appreciate you sharing that.
No, I definitely agree. It's a totally different world now. I'll share a story with you. Max, Michelle, Travis, and I were standing right there in Travis's booth when Para was still open. It was still Para Ordnance, right next to SIG. I think Para used to be right next to SIG. I don't think Travis was Remington yet, or maybe he might have been Remington already at this point. But we're literally standing there talking. We're just joking with each other, taking a break within our slotted times that we have to be at in terms of booth appearances and stuff. And it was a kind of rare moment, right? We were just enjoying ourselves, and then a kid walks up to Travis and said, hey, who do I talk? Because he had a Remington or a Para on his jersey. He was like, hey, who do I talk to for sponsorship? And Travis goes, yeah, I would talk to that guy right there, some guy in a suit. And he was about 5 yards away. So the kid walks up to the kid, this man, and literally said, almost verbatim, it's been a few years, but it's almost verbatim, says this: hey, sir, how you doing? He goes, my name is blah, blah, blah. I wish I remember his name. And he said, you guys need a world champion and a title. I'll be your driver. You're the car I need. But between us two, we'll get you a title. And I'm sitting there going, what just happened? And he goes, you need to sponsor me. And I looked up Max. I'm like, Max, is that how you got your sponsorship? Max goes, Travis, there goes your new teammate. And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, man, I'm doing it all wrong. If he gets a sponsorship, that's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a different world. But the crazy thing too, the thing has shifted. Most companies now don't really pay for print as much anymore because they've realized the value in social media. So if you have a strong presence in social media, however it is, whether you bought it or had some cool videos that people like and you have good content, that right there, it's in of itself. You could tell them, like, this is how many followers I have. Like my latest sponsorship, they sent me a contract, and the initial first page of the contract was list out all your social media platforms, how many followers each, and then before we even got into the nitty-gritty. I'm like, holy cow, and these guys were already sponsoring me without, they were already grabbing me as a sponsor shooter, as one of their, what is that called, ambassadors. And
right.
But they were still asking for that and how much, and they were valuing my value basically off of that.
Yeah, that's interesting, the whole world of impressions and likes and reach, and yeah, it's I had to break out Google here not too long ago to see what all that stuff meant. So it takes almost as much time in the social media side than it does actually shooting.
Oh yeah, I think it's more people editing videos.
Oh yeah.
Steve, I just checked. Our podcast has 302 followers, so you have at least 151 of those are your followers. I'll take the other half. How's that sound?
That's awesome.
Oh man.
Well, JJ, you shoot, and you said you had a job in the government for a while, but you and I actually got to meet, got to shake your hand, set up this podcast because you were training down here at the Wyoming Antelope Club,
right.
And you do a lot of training. How can what's the best way for people to get in touch with you to find out, when they might be able to take a training course or even, get you on a one-on-one?
The best way really is to contact my wife. That's how this was set up, my wife, because
Yes, I will verify that, yes. Jessica is the one that will make things happen.
Exactly. I tell everyone this. My wife makes me happen. Without her, I'd have a lot of tentative schedules because it would never be pushed through. She pulls the trigger. She's amazing. She's an amazing lady. Very organized. I'm more of a in the moment type guy where if it's not in front of my face, I will forget about it. Right. So yeah, if you contact me, I'll most likely get back to you within a few days, which is horrible. And she's always on top of me, like, hey, this is what you have tomorrow. So she's like my babysitter, unfortunately, but I need her for that, right? It's awesome. She's such a good partner. She's basically my best friend. We get along very, very well. I got so lucky with her. So she's the person that would make anything happen in revolving around me. So she knows my schedule to the hour. I just go with it, and she'll yell at me once I miss something. So the best way really is jessica.racaza. That's RACAZA @yahoo.com, and that's send her an email, and then we'll have our website. It's getting put up together now, so a lot of the workload will be off of her. But for now, that is the best way, and that's how everyone's been setting up classes through her. And through that, I've literally been booked almost every weekend. I'd have to beg her, like, hey, love, I've been working for, I think, 68 days in a row now. Can I have one day? She's like, oh, yeah, schedule one day off. I'm like, oh, my gosh, thanks.
Send her an email. Just send her an email. And, oh.
I should send her an email. The subject, day off. That's a great idea.
Or, think about this. Fred Smith needs some training, wants some one-on-one time, and you're Fred Smith.
Yeah, that's right. That's totally true. I should do that. Oh, my gosh.
That's funny.
But no, she's absolutely awesome. I tell her, because I'm not afraid of work. Really not. Never have been. I like it when I'm really super busy. I like it when I'm pinched for time. I absolutely enjoy that, the thriving through that, making it through the day, like, oh, my God, I barely made it, for everything that I needed to get done that day. And it's kind of one of those things. So I tell her, I'm like, hey, just book me. So literally I just got back from Thailand, and I had one day. Oh, I didn't even have a day. I went to the shop and worked the shop, catch up as much as I could with administrative stuff. Then next Saturday, I had a class, and I was like, oh, my God, I didn't know I had a class. She's like, yeah, your weekend's not yours yet, because your first day off is next weekend. I was like, goodness, who scheduled this? She goes, you told me you didn't care. I'm like, oh, I said. So my schedule is the way it is because I told her just put me to work. I was like, do it while I can. I was like, right now I'm capable of working a lot of hours. And it's like, so let's just do it. I'm okay. It does get tiring, though, a lot. Ooh.
Sometimes, honey, it's not what I say, it's what I mean.
I should whisper that to her tonight.
Hey, if you need me to send her an email, I will for you, JJ. Well, we really appreciate you taking your time to be on our podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that you already haven't?
No, guys, if you guys ever have any questions, call my shop. We would answer anything. I'm on the phone quite a bit. People would get on the phone just for training drills, tips, even gear. Like, hey, what's wrong with this? Whatever, just advice. You can do that at the shop. You don't have to call me to buy something. You can just call us just to say hi. We have two guys on staff. They're both masterclass shooters. Both of them have sucked into the PCC world right now because they both are like, oh, I can be really fast and still hit a lot of things. So there's legitimate people. They're great guys. I'm here, so if you ever have any questions, bring guns. So guys will walk in here, drive here from wherever, or land here in Vegas and like, hey, we have a match in St. George. They'll just drive to my shop. And they go, hey, can we just dry fire for a second? I'm like, no, let's do it. I love seeing dry fire. And it's like, well, they're dry fire now. Here I am critiquing them, helping them with their draw. Like, it's such a family-friendly thing. So, yeah, we're awesome guys here that just cool guys that are bored sometimes, and we're just looking for something to do. And if you come here showing up with your gear, we're going to test how good your draw and reloads are.
Way cool. Can you share your contact information for the shop with our listeners real quick?
Absolutely, yeah. It's you can call us at 702-888-1180, or just email us. Send us an email at Nevada, spelled out Nevada .arms, ARMS, @gmail.com.
Very cool. Thanks again, JJ. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it. I think everybody's going to be out there manipulating their trigger, and hopefully they're doing it the right way.
I hope so too.